Welcome to Sober.Coffee, a weekly coffee chat sharing experience, strength, and hope for anyone on the sober road to recovery. You can download Sober.Coffee weekly on all podcast platforms and check us out on Instagram at Sober.Coffee Podcast and on Twitter at Sober.Coffee Pod. To learn more about us and to help support these sessions, visit online at Sober.Coffee. Here are your hosts, two guys on their own path to recovery, Mike and Glenn. Let's join them at the coffee shop.
Two guys and a girl. How you doing, Glenn?
Good, man. You're so pumped up this morning. I'm like rolled out of bed.
I know, right?
I'm like cranky, and you're like winking at me, ready to get going. And
It was a politically correct wink, by the way.
no, totally.
Yeah.
They always are. What's up, man?
It's a Mikey wink.
Yeah, it's good to be in the coffee shop with
It's
you.
great to be in the coffee shop,
A
man.
little behind the scenes.
Yeah.
We start Saturdays at 6 a.m. So I don't get one of those rest sleep in days with you.
They're overrated.
I know,
Really, sleep
totally,
is
man.
overrated. I'll sleep when I die. I mean, really, I got plenty of time to sleep when I die.
Sobriety doesn't sleep. Sobriety rolls on.
Sobriety roll. So you quoted two things. I love. We should have been hot Mike coming in.
I know.
because-
We always say that.
I
but we
know
never
it was
do
good conversation. Now we're going to roll into the mundane. I mean, it's not going to. We can't match the pre coffee.
I'll tell you what. Every time I come in here, Brian's got new equipment.
Oh yeah,
It's probably $1 million studio at this point. No, I shouldn't say that because then people come visit.
that's right. Exactly. Yeah, we.
No,
wanna
it's a
keep-
great studio,
Yeah.
man. Always some cool stuff going on here.
Audio Hive.
So how's sobriety? Good?
Sobriety is really, really good. I
Are
mean,
we going to talk about that this morning? We're going to.
every day.
All right, cool.
Every day. We end up talking about it. So
All right, good stuff.
anyway,
man.
we got a guest in the coffee shop.
I know
with
that's
us this
awesome.
morning.
I'm just
Yeah.
bambling along,
Yeah.
and the real quality conversation is sitting
That's
next
right.
to me.
Exactly. We brought some intelligence with us. Hello, Claudia.
Hello,
Morning, Claudia.
gentlemen.
Good morning,
How
good
are
morning.
you? I don't know about
Actually, let me just point something out. Are you aware that our number one episode is with Claudia?
Really?
Yeah.
Truly.
say that to
Our number
all
one
the
download?
speakers.
You know what? I can prove it to you.
Yeah. Wow.
I have data.
And in
Data
that
doesn't lie.
vein,
No, I'm being serious.
yeah.
Really?
Absolutely.
Yeah, go back and
By 10%.
yeah.
Really?
On our website. So if you go to, I don't know how you search like on Spotify and Apple. I don't know how you do that. But if you go to our website,
We don't have
we got a
don't
little
know anything.
We got a little search queue in there,
Uh-huh.
and you could just type in Claudia, and you'll get all the episodes that Claudia's joined us on. Or you can go with,
I was never aware of that.
yeah, you just got a little search mechanism.
Is that on
yeah.
the interwebs?
It's on the interweb.
Which is funny you should say that, Glenn, because just last Friday night I was with my mom, and I don't get a lot of time, obviously, because I'm busy, and we're talking, and she started asking me stuff about AA, which typically...
Now I know why
Really?
Mom's been listening every day.
No,
Mom walks in every day
No,
and
it was
listens.
probably a little over a year that I was
Yeah,
on with you
right,
gentlemen, and she'd never heard it. So, again, she's got a new phone, doesn't know how to download.
Oh, sure. How old is
She called all her friends and said, listen to my
78.
daughter.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Cute.
So she listened to it. It was really cute.
Aw.
So the next day is when you text me because she's like, "Oh, are you going to do another one?"
It's
I
a
said, "Well, I have
weird-
to wait for them to reach out to me."
That's a
Love
And
how
you
stuff
did.
works,
Yeah.
man.
Yep.
Love how stuff
Yep.
works.
Yeah.
So now we know where all our listeners will come from. Your
That's
mom
right.
and Claudia's
That's
mom.
right, exactly.
No,
Come on, Mom.
I'm
We
serious.
know we got
by,
two fans.
by like 10%.
Yeah, right,
you are
exactly.
the number one episode by 10%.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe I should get
Well, it's good.
into-
It's good messaging, and because you just talk about sincere sobriety. I mean,
Yeah,
it
real
just,
life.
Yeah, real life.
So the only thing I can think of that, because, I'm a data kind of guy, and the only thing I can think is people find value in what you said, and they come back and re-listen. Because there's no way by chance, right? Because, we've had 20 guests, 40 guests.
Oh, more than 40 guys.
Yeah, we've had
at
40
least,
guests. So that's the only thing I can think is you laid down some nuggets that people come back to.
That's good to know.
But that's fact.
Yeah.
By 10%.
And the thing is that again, Glenn and I started this. Glenn started this. By the way, Claudia, if
The only
Glenn
way I
ever
started
says-
is invited you to dinner.
Right. So that's the key. If Glenn says, "Hey, how would you like to go to dinner?" Think about that.
Just say no.
Decline.
Yeah, just say no.
Quickly.
Just say no because it's a 3-year commitment.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
Yeah, we're coming up on right around
That's
30
great.
3 years.
That's awesome, guys. Yeah, I tell everyone.
Well,
You
and
guys
our
do
whole
a great
goal
job.
is to just help one person along their path.
Yeah.
That's it. And I don't know how this crazy little coffee shop segments do it, but people respond and they say, "Hey, thanks,"
Yeah.
and that's
I think
that's
podcasts are
heartwarming.
great, People don't have time, and when you're multitasking, I've just started doing that when I work out, when I go for a walk.
But people's time is valuable.
For sure. Yeah.
You know, so carving a half hour out to listen to a couple idiots and a smart lady is
Well, it's so
pretty
funny.
impressive.
We're sitting there at dinner and we're like, well, what are we going to talk about, right? And we're like, well, Mikey, you can tell your story and I'll tell my
Okay,
story.
that's two.
That's 2 episodes,
Okay, good.
right? And there's like, well, there's 12 steps.
Oh, there we go. Now we're at 14.
So now we're at 14, and we can do behind the counter, kind of introduce
Oh,
the show. That's
15,
15, right?
yeah.
I'm like,
And then that's
I'm like,
where
I think
it
we have a
ended.
show, right?
That's where it
Right?
ended.
And now
right?
3 years
and
later.
like, we'll
right?
figure it out.
200 plus episodes.
Yeah. Thank you for what you guys do. It's,
Oh,
it's
geez,
awesome.
man.
Yeah.
It is. It's great.
And we get a lot of feedback from our listeners, which is great.
Yeah, we
because
just got a
that-
badge. We got a badge. We're in 50 plus countries.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're big in Uganda.
Bangladesh.
Big Bangladesh. We're big. We should go on tour.
Bangladesh live.
Glenn and Mike in Bangladesh.
All right, so let's get down. Let's get down to business.
What's the business? We don't even have
Well,
a topic,
I
man.
know.
I'm not
Well, that's
prepared.
the thing.
I have a blank page.
I know.
I'm
That's
not
what I
prepared.
love about it. It's a blank canvas, man. We can paint anything for the next 22 minutes.
I love
It's
it.
all ours. So, Claudia, what's been going on in sobriety in your life?
You know, when you reached out to me, Mike, it was perfect. And I think I had briefly mentioned to you in a text, I think fellowship in the last week or two has really been the forefront. You know, I've been going through some things, you know, personally. And
only you, because I'm good. I'm clean. I
Right.
got a clean
I
slate.
know,
I'm not going
right?
through anything personally.
Even with 4 years of sobriety, it never ends, right? Because life keeps going, and things happen, and you know, it just comes back to, and I won't go into detail, but you know, our lives, you know, has, you know, the drinking part is one thing, but we have to fix our lives in many areas, you know, once we stop the drink, and you know, in doing so, there's a lot to unravel that doesn't just, you know, repair itself overnight. And part of that, I've had, you know, a couple weeks of reflective how, you know, my burying my head in the sand. And it was abundantly clear as I went through some financial aspects of my life recently, how I really did just, you know, it's not the reason I drank, but oh, wow.
It exasperated it.
Completely.
And then the exasperation of the drinking exasperates the problem with finances. It's just,
Right.
for me
well,
anyway,
and it's
I
not
made some
taking
bad
accountability,
choices.
right? And you know, for me personally, it was just not being able to cope with any stressors, you know. So it was funny. I had talked to a gentleman who was helping me in that area, and he happens to be in the program as well.
Oh, that's a bonus.
Yeah, and you know, at the end of our conversation about what we were talking about financially, and he looked at me and he goes, "You know, Claudia, I really respect your program." I said, "Oh," I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, because after what you just laid out for me, I probably would have been a cocaine user, heroin, and alcohol."
So in other words, your therapist needs a therapist?
Yeah, right. So you know, that's the
awesome.
thing is that we just have to make, you know, I have to make financial amends with things, and you know, I think that what showed me is stuff that, you know, and not that people in my life who are outside of AA, and that means close friends, and I've had many close friends in my life who have listened to, you know, financial worries that I have or whatever the case may be. And, you know, they can give me solutions, but this week in particular, you know, it was a couple people, two in particular, in AA as well, who really understand that part of how an alcoholic lays a lot of stuff in resentments and blame and who wasn't doing their part. And again, I'm really self-aware, so I know my part in it. But also to keep saying the same thing and waiting for a different outcome. And, you know, a close friend of mine in the program, he said...
They call that wisdom, don't they?
Yeah, right. And he said, you need to get in front of the problem and really kind of snap me out of that, you know, it's not my problem. But ultimately, I am affected by the problem if I don't take care of it. And, you know, that's part of growing. And, you know, if another friend, and I don't even necessarily know if people outside of the program would understand that element of what's my part in it, stop laying resentment and take action. And
Take
again,
action, right?
it's what this program is about.
Yeah.
And it kind of snapped me out of my funk, and I did. You know, within a day or two of that conversation, I handled some stuff that needed to be handled. And, you know, we live in that fear still daily, because for this alcoholic, that's a big part of my alcoholism, is sitting in fear, afraid of the outcome. You know, and I think people who are not alcoholic have that, but I think alcoholics just take it again on such another level.
Well, and I think because I come in with the baggage, right? I come in with the baggage of the decisions I made when I was not thinking clearly. But what I love about what you said is the reliance you had on people in the program, because if you're really in the program, there are principles. Courage is one of those principles, and honesty is one of those principles. And when you talk about self-reflection and being self-aware, that's all about honesty. I mean, really, what role did I play in this, right? And I think if you follow the principles of the program, and there's 12 of them to go along with the 12 steps, it makes overcoming these hurdles a lot easier, because if you follow them, you're going to end up with fewer, if any, resentments.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that word fear, man, that fear just gripping. And the biggest thing about fear is most of the time
It doesn't turn out.
Right.
Yeah, it's unfounded.
I mean, it's just, it blows my mind. And hey, you know what? I have found with the financial stuff, if you're straight up with people, I'm amazed at what people will settle for, the arrangements and the flexibility people have. And I think the real reason is most people are trying to screw everybody. And so when you come up and are straight up and say, hey, here's where I'm at, here's what I can do, here's what I can't do, I'll stay in contact, I'll be fully transparent, right? People don't know how to handle that. And they're like, hey, man, I got somebody real here, and they really care. I'm amazed. My personal story and people I work with, I'm amazed at the flexibility and the freedom that facing the fears delivers.
Yeah.
But those fears, man, are real.
I think it's only people, and that's what I say, is that never have I encountered, and it's funny too, back to my mom a minute, she just recently watched that Netflix, I don't know if it's Netflix or Amazon, Louder Milk, about the AA group.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It's a spoof. It's a great show. And my mom watched it, and she said, oh, my God. She goes, I'm worried about you. Are people, crazy like that?
Are people crazy? Yeah, there's people crazy. There's crazy
who
people
are on
everywhere.
the program, who
in the
really
rooms
need
and
the
out of the
program.
rooms, right?
Yeah, and it was so funny.
At least the crazy people in the room are trying for a solution.
Yeah,
Well, some.
right?
Many.
Working towards
Most.
something.
Some. No.
Yes.
Few.
And
I don't know.
that's so funny, because what I've reflected on in the past week or two is, I think on a whole, most alcoholics, yes, we're alcoholic, but you will never find a group of people with bigger hearts than
that's
people
true.
in AA. And I've seen it not only in pertaining to me. There's someone in the program who also is struggling with some family issues with her daughter. And I have never, these people who have reached out and gone above and beyond, just to give her the hope that she needs, and she reaches to people in the program, because even her own family is not supporting her in decisions that she's making. And in the last week, that's really been, I watched somebody move into a place, and people were taking time out of their weekend to move him in.
It is amazing.
And even in my own personal circumstance that was taking care of me, it was through a friend that connected me with someone else who was in the program. And, within 2 days, something was rectified. And again, we may be alcoholic, but, and I don't know if it's a disease we're born with,
That's a topic for another show, right?
Exactly.
For 20 of those shows.
Right.
Yeah.
If God afflicted us with this disease for a purpose, to find sobriety and help other people. Never. And I said that to my mom, because ironically, she's asking me about Louder Milk, and right after we had that, and I said, no, Mom, you'll never find a nicer group of people. And, what you're seeing portrayed is obviously elaborating on, the satire of it. But literally a minute after that, I had somebody reach out to me, and this was, again, a month or two ago, who I haven't seen and I Zoomed with in early sobriety. And he reached out to me and said, hey, Claude, I remember you got an anniversary coming up, and it was just such perfect timing.
Right.
Because, again, never will you find a group of people who are so supporting of each other.
And without wanting anything back. It's non-transactional.
Absolutely.
That's what blew me away.
I love
when-
about
Yep.
it.
When I was in early sobriety, the first 2 years, more people did stuff for me and never asked for anything in return. And that just
Right.
wasn't really how I used to live in life. It was always a scorecard.
Right. But
Right.
you have to plug into this, right? So it doesn't come by osmosis.
Which brings me to another point that
Yes.
what I've been reflecting on.
Yes.
Someone very close to me, alcoholic and working a program, but doesn't feel, and that's why, because these conversations all are happening at one time, and he, doesn't really believe in like the meetings and the fellowship, and likes to stick with his sponsor, and that's good. But I think we need other people because sometimes, again, as someone well known in this program, Dr. John, we can't read our own labels,
Right.
and even though we may not agree with people that we are in meetings with, I get so much from staying, locked in and maybe shedding light on something about myself, And again, we're not all the same, and I think that's what brings so much to AA meetings is finding other people who aren't exactly the same. We're not all the same.
Right.
Financial background, race, gender.
Sure.
But as I've said before, we get a lot, as women, I get a lot from hearing men's point of view and things that I might not understand, in my marriage that I get from men. And, that's the thing. And when I really look at the program, I think you're really selling yourself short. And especially given the fact of what I've witnessed in the past couple of weeks with everyone in the program and the close group of people, he's missing out, you know?
But here's the thing. You're talking about the take for a moment, right? And what the program has done for you. And I'm here to say loud and out loud that you're a giver in the program too, because I see you helping other people in those rooms. And I know I brought people into the rooms that were new. You embraced them. I mean, it's contagious. So what you're receiving, you're giving on every time you walk through those rooms. You're there for somebody, and that is so important because when a young lady walks into those rooms, I'm not the guy that's going to connect with her, right? I'm just not the guy,
Right.
But you're the gal, and if you're not in that room, she's stuck with a bunch of Mike and Glens, and that's not going to work for her.
Yeah, it's really. I love how you say take and give, right? So in AA, there's not really scorecards. I mean, you just give. I mean, if you work the program right. So as y'all are chatting, I'm reflecting, and for several years, I took. And at the level I took is now the level and fuel that I give. And I took a lot. I mean, I had a guy reach out early on. He said, Glenn, I know, hey, you're transitioning out of this, shit-ass relationship. Hey, I got a 4-bedroom house, live by myself. Beautiful house, if you want to hang out for a couple months.
You got his address because my family life is a little chaotic right now.
Well, I'll tell you,
I'd like
you
somewhere
know,
to
still got a
stay and
still got a
relax.
spare room.
well, no, I'll tell you, I moved in with him. And I said, okay, I moved in with him, and we went to meetings together, and I ended up living there almost 3 years.
Wow.
And it just, it was a really rock foundation, and he gave me a deal on rent, a great deal on rent, so that helped me, and I'm just telling you, people have done so much for me, and what that has done, if you work the program correctly, the dial switches from taker over time, taker to giver.
And now you're driving to hospitals in the middle of the night.
Yeah, now
you're picking up the phone.
Right, and sometimes,
Right.
the network that we build, because we don't do it alone. I feel sorry for the guy that doesn't connect in the rooms but only has a sponsor, because the real value and growth is the connection in the rooms. And I have a network right now that I'm really proud of. Somebody the other day reached out at 6:30 in the morning. He says, "Hey, I need an attorney. I need like a labor law attorney. Do you have one?" And within 7 minutes, I had him connecting and conversing with a labor law attorney.
What'd you charge him?
Nothing.
Come on now.
It's going to be a little kickback
come on,
fee
Glenn.
there.
Come on,
And
Glenn.
if somebody
He's
needs
getting a dinner out of it.
If
Right.
somebody needs a painter, I got him. Somebody needs a plumber, I got one.
yeah.
Somebody needs anything,
Yep.
I've got them. And I'm telling you, the value of a network, and I don't ask for anything in return. And it's funny. There's a guy, that I've been working with, and I mean, he is 100% in the taking zone,
which is natural. And
In the beginning,
but he is professional level, and he's a manipulator, and he's a schemer, and like in
I'm in the room.
8 months, Brian laughed. Brian laughed. In 8 months, he's in his 4th sober living home because I think he goes in and scams, and tells a story until he, gets kicked out because he's not paying. Right? And the only thing I can look at that, first of all, I can recognize that. Second of all is, I'll know when he's better when he does his, 8th to 9th step.
Right.
When my phone rings for the 8th to 9th step.
Yep.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Yeah, because unfortunately, I don't see that too much, But somebody just mentioned...
See what?
See where, they're on the receiving end, still working as that manipulator to get what they can, and...
Work with newcomers, man. They are takers.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
Here's the thing.
They will suck you dry if you don't set boundaries.
See, what I noticed with the people that I was sponsoring that would come up to me, I was trying to constantly, give it,
Right.
and, but if they don't want it...
If they don't want it, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I go back to 1935. These gals that were getting sober in 1935, they were working the accelerated program. They're out giving, days after they took, according to the book.
Yeah,
Well, it's funny 'cause I
that's hard
just-
for me to get my head around.
I was just
Right.
in a meeting, and they were talking about, I can't remember what chapter because I'm not
Right.
really
You're
good
not
at
a verse thrower.
I'm not a verse thrower, but in regards to, back in the day, they would, let the alcoholic into their house and
Yeah,
be careful.
right.
He might
Oh.
be throwing furniture.
Yeah,
and,
right. That ain't me.
It brings me, right. And times aren't like that. Again, I think it was a different time.
Some people still do that.
Yeah, probably, right?
In fact, I've been taken into people's homes.
Sight unseen, without
No, not sight unseen, but people knew me, but I was in really bad condition. I've spent time in basements of people's houses.
Well, and I've heard that in the rooms,
Yep.
A lot of guys, my family kicked me out and,
sure.
they were in a basement and... But again, I've had people reach out to me that, even family members haven't offered the things that people,
Yeah.
and
No.
people that I've, known. And again, there was a gentleman in the room yesterday. He just celebrated 2 years, and that's exactly what he was talking about. So this theme has been just very,
Yes.
coming up constantly because he, they got him clothes, they gave him somewhere to stay. They invited him to a social event, and he didn't have anything to wear. They gave him stuff. And again, people love you till you can't love yourself. And so to see those stories, and I've seen it, and in our fellowship, Mikey, they have a group of women that
strong.
are just like and to see them, and all within relatively like a year coming up. They're all like hitting the 1 year mark.
Oh,
And
they're strong.
they're strong, and it's I will say, because I know a couple of them took a couple times to try and get this program, but the stars aligned to just so that they all kind of came in at the same
But
time.
they did it together.
Yeah, absolutely, and that
did
was
it
the
together.
difference. That
Right.
was the difference in their staying sober. Because they build each other up, and it's finding your people, and that's something that my sponsor drilled into my head. Find your army.
Yeah.
And that's it, not to just pigeon your house. So again, to the person, if you can stay sober, that's great.
Right.
But we have such a gift here in the people in the program.
Let's learn a new way to live. I was talking to a sponsee yesterday, and I loved it. He's coming up on his 1 year, and I love it. He looks at me and goes, Glenn, he goes, do you realize how great society would be if everybody lived to the 12 steps?
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm like,
Such a great design
I'm
for
like, dude,
living.
you've been paying attention.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because that's a really good correlation, and just, it's just amazing how this program, and we've actually, Mikey and I are part of a men's group, like 18, 19 guys, and we've talked about it in there. Now, half the guys are in AA, but, the rest of the guys, and we haven't gone through the steps
No.
per se,
But we talk about them all the time.
yeah, similar.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
we've done activities similar, and it changes people's lives. They live differently. It's awesome.
Well, I always say that. I think alcohol was just a vehicle to get me in the door
Yeah,
to
right.
figure out, how to live.
And isn't that the thing? I mean, I think the three of us can concur that the abstinence part of the program, that has become, that's the easy part.
Yeah,
The hard
yeah.
part is the fear. The hard part is the financial strain. The hard part is staying on time.
And I'm
There goes
really
Mikey's
blunt
timer
with
again
people.
that
Yeah,
we never
right.
pay
It
attention
says
to.
time to stop talking.
right.
Is that the wrap it up sign?
Yeah, it's the wrap it up sign, unfortunately. But let's go back to fear for a second. So we talked about the principles of the program. We talked about how the program helped you. But how did that help you muddle through the fear that we talked about early on, and the concerns that you have now? And
Well, a big part of that too is the spiritual aspect of the program.
Right.
I have to say, what's the worst that's going to happen? And by sitting there and, not taking any action, and then when I really connect with my higher power and say, you know what, whatever the outcome is, it is what it is.
Right.
But if I'm acting rightly, I'm doing the next right thing, and I'm...
that's all you can do.
That's all you can do.
Is the next right thing.
Right. And that's it. That fear. And again, that's a day, as we talked prior to the podcast, we're talking about anxiety, and I still deal with that, and I think sometimes when my stressors are upon me, it kind of, it spirals into, my health and thinking. For me, I know before I came into the program, there was definitely something even my doctor had mentioned where if I was stressed, I'm handling stress, but after a while, your body just starts to not be able to handle it.
Right.
And,
stress is physical.
Yes. and what it does to you. So that's where working the higher power. It's really, I did fake that till I made it, because in the beginning, when I'd feel that,
it wasn't there.
It wasn't there. And then I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to, if this is a mental thing that I have to sit here and do.
Right.
And it really does. And by doing that, it just becomes a practice like anything else. But it's still, I think that'll be.
No, that's the reality. I think
we're
it's
human.
still human. Right, exactly. I was just going to say
But it puts it in a more leveled,
right.
And again, at certain times, I got a daughter going to go to college, financial, figuring that. There's so many things.
GoFundMe. Start a GoFundMe for her.
Please, help the needy.
Yeah, so the one thing I just want to wrap up on fear is, and I think I heard this in rooms, is, fear knocked on the door and no one answered, right? Mm-hmm. Fear's always there, right? I think that's part of just our psyches. But I think a critical part is when we say do the next right step, it's action, right?
That's what you said at the beginning.
And that's what my friend said. Get in front of it.
I mean, watch the guy in college that didn't study for a test but prayed and prayed and prayed, and he had the faith and he prayed and he had the spirituality, he prayed and prayed, didn't study, and was shocked that he got a D. And he said, well, God must be testing me. I'm like, dude, you're an idiot. Like, you didn't study. You got to do the action. You got to do your absolute best. You got to build the right plan to do the next right thing, and sometimes you need people to help you give some input, right? But you have to do the grind.
You do have to do the work, right? It's not just going to happen. What's
and
it
I
saying?
think the grind.
With the shovel, show up with the shovel.
Show up with the shovel, man. Get to it,
Get
and
digging,
then things happen.
Yeah.
That's where the superpower comes in, is when you give it everything you've got.
So you're saying even though D is a passing grade, you should do more? Because I've kind of parked it. Yes, I passed. Sorry, my bad.
I've done that once or twice also.
my bad.
Hey, thank God I got out of that one. But
all right, man, this has been good. I don't
thanks
know that
again for having me, guys.
We're coming back.
I'm not sure what
you're
what the
back
topic
next week.
is, but it was great.
It was great. It was good. It was good to have
Talk.
coffee with you.
Yeah, it's great.
All right, man.
All right,
Thanks.
guys.
See you, Claudia.
Thanks
next
so much.
week.
All right.
Take care.
All right.
Thanks for joining us for today's coffee chat. To contact the show, email us at podcast@Sober.Coffee. If you need immediate help, the AA hotline is 800-839-1686. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 800-273-8255. Remember, Mike and Glenn are sharing their own journey on the path to recovery. Any suggestions, medical or otherwise, are their own experiences and should not be viewed as professional advice. See you next week, and remember, there is a solution.